man, it's me, Kevin Smith, Silent Bob, and all those terrible Jay and Silent Bob type pictures, man. You're listening to Drop the Mic, the only podcast that I listen to that I'm not a part of. Every podcast I listen to, I usually talk on it, but not fucking Drop the Mic. That's where I'm like, let me hear what the boys have to say. And now, we drop the mic.
You're here. You can call this.
What, Harry? The FBI takes over and we look like assholes who can't do our jobs. Again. That's what happens the minute a single news van rolls up and any one of these people walks out of there alive, goes on CNN, and says, we're the bad guys.
Doesn't matter who the fuck's around. Tell it to the goddamn news. That's exactly what we're gonna be. The fucking bad guys!
I got 18 years in. I'm not telling my wife she's got to clip coupons till we're dead because I couldn't follow a simple order, shitty as that order is. And we're not talking about Gandhi here. I got a piece of Brooks' skull in my fucking knee. They're shooting at us with military ordnance. These ain't a bunch of tweakers in a motel meth lab. They are big bad eggs.
Welcome back to our humble San Diego podcast. We are your hosts, Ryan Jimenez and Wesley Swanson, and this is Drop the Mic. This is episode 291, The Dark Side of That, Kevin Smith, and we will be taking it back to 2011 for a soft review of his first horror film, Red State. But before this, let's get warmed up with some of our usual intro segments, starting with pop culture news.
And now for a special news report, brought to you by Drop the Mic.
What's up, Ryan? How are you?
What's up, dude? How's it going?
Good, man. What do you have us on for us on the news front this week?
Okay, so the Goosebumps series in works at Disney Plus has just added Justin Long to the cast. The series follows a group of 5 high schoolers who unleash supernatural forces upon their town. And according to Disney, the show is influenced by 5 of the most popular Goosebumps books. I don't know if you heard about that.
No, I haven't actually.
Yeah, so it's kind of rad that they're doing that. I don't think we've ever talked about the movies. Do you like the first one at least?
To be honest, no.
I don't mind. I don't mind it.
I tend to lean towards. To be honest, I like the stuff that Are You Afraid of the Dark is doing.
Okay.
As far as their specials, and oh man, it's just so much more cinematic, and it feels more like it's still geared towards us, the people that grew up with the franchise, if that makes sense. So I just feel like they're killing it a lot more, but hopefully Goosebumps can redeem themselves with this new project you're talking about.
Yeah, and Justin Long, I mean, you gotta love that guy.
Go watch Barbarian if you haven't.
Yes. Let's see. Moving on. So, Al Fanning has been cast in Hideo Kojima's next video game. According to rumors, it's a horror game titled Overdose. I think it was announced at that big video game conference in Japan. So that's crazy. Hideo always puts out wild shit. I never played Death Stranding. Did you?
Yeah, I own it. It's just really confusing and weird and and difficult, and you have to walk everywhere. And but no, it's beautiful. I won't take away from the art direction. You know, everything that guy puts out is pretty good. So Overdose, yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to see him kind of get into horror stuff.
You said it's Elle Fanning is cast?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, she's going to be the lead. Yeah, I fucking love Kojima. Let's see. Okay, so in a recent interview, Brendan Fraser said that he's open to doing another Mummy sequel. He's quoted as saying, "I don't know how it would work, but I'd be open to it if someone came up with the right concept." So that would be fucking awesome.
Yeah, I saw that thumbnail and I was like, oh, that's crazy. I mean, in today's standards, I feel like anything is possible, and they could very well bring it back if they wanted to. Just make it worth our while, you know.
Bring Rachel Weisz back, please,
If she wants to.
if she wants to.
After you say, after what you told us. On that.
And for my last little bit of news, Adam Copeland has been added to the cast of Disney Plus's Percy Jackson and the Olympians, their new series they're doing. If that name doesn't sound familiar, it's because people mostly know him as WWE Hall of Famer Edge, and he'll be playing Ares in a recurring role.
Really?
Yeah.
I liked his match in that was the Extreme Rules pay-per-view that happened.
Yeah, dude, that the storytelling in that match was pretty great. Like, it went back a couple, since the creation of that Judgment Day faction, and then all the way when he returned after that in SummerSlam. But yeah, dude, it was a good match and good storytelling. I think that's why they kind of ended it how it did, so he can step away for a couple months to do this, because this is already filming, or it's in production already.
Interesting, nice.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything he's done, but I guess he's in that show Vikings, and he's pretty cool in it.
Oh, I didn't know that either. Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, that's all I got on the news front. What do you got for us?
Nice. I just have a couple small things. So Final Girl Nancy herself, Heather Langenkampf, went on record with Entertainment Tonight this past week due to her work in Mike Flanagan's new Midnight Club series, which is streaming now on Netflix. In the interview, she opened up about wanting to face off with her nemesis, Freddy Krueger, one more time for a legacy sequel. Do you have any thoughts on this?
If someone can do it right, I'd say go for it, especially with all the reboots happening. It'd be awesome for her to get one last go at it. I'm pretty sure if they were to do that, it wouldn't just be one movie, especially if it did well. But I don't know, man. Hasn't Robert Englund said that he's kind of done with it?
He's kind of like Tarantino in the way that he kind of flip-flops back and forth, where he'll be like, no, my body's too old, I can't sit and do the makeup for that long, and then, a couple years roll by, or, a substantial amount of time goes by, and he's like, well, I could do one more. I have one more in me, so he's like back and forth, I think, with that, but if they did a legacy sequel, it could only be done with England, Yeah. Of course. But I love Heather. One of my favorite movies in the world is probably New Nightmare. I love it. It's like Nolan before Nolan, I think, and especially because that the Nightmare on Elm Street reboot was pretty bad, and that's coming from somebody who's pretty lenient with most movies. Not good. And most of maybe this is a hot take. We're probably going to have lots of hot takes tonight, by the way, but a lot of the Nightmare entries that aren't done by Wes Craven are not great, so it would be worth it. This is a character that deserves something for the modern age, in my opinion, if that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. I think that's it's just like, we're going to get into it later it's just like Halloween, dude. Like, the fan base is super divisive when it comes to all the sequels and stuff like that. And I'm kind of where you're at. I'll fuck with the first one and obviously New Nightmare. I'm a fan of, like, of course, Dream Warriors. It's just like nostalgia for me. But other than that, dude, I'm not a big fan of anything else.
Yeah.
So yeah, dude, that'd be exciting for them to start up again.
This weekend, Terrifier 2 returns to the theaters after fans demand an extended run. Reports of fans fainting and vomiting while viewing the film have certainly caused some serious curiosity with this one.
It is playing at 700 theaters this weekend, which is insane.
Alongside Halloween Ends, which is a big deal for Damien Leone, because you're gonna get all of this traction just because everybody's excited about Halloween Ends, you know, and people are gonna go watch that because they're fiending off of October and Halloween, and so it's just a very good marketing point for them to make some more money off an already profitable film that hasn't even hit video yet.
I think it's already over 2 million, which is insane, dude.
Yes. With their the budget that they had to make that movie and what they've made, and they haven't even come out with the Blu-ray yet, is just, that's amazing. And like you said, it solidifies Art the Clown as an icon of October and fall now.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, if you're able to go see it, I will say that we'll get into it later. I'm sure we'll. But yeah, it's good. Go and see it. Did you see that? Do you follow Damien on Instagram?
Yeah, I just his stuff was probably because we were talking about Terrifier and our FBI agents are working overtime. But yeah, his stuff started popping up on my feed, so I went ahead and followed him, and now I'm seeing.
Did you see how he put on his stories? He put like that side by side of Terrifier's, Terrifier 2's like Rotten Tomato score and Halloween Ends.
Yeah, and that makes me mad. Okay, yeah. because you have Terrifier 2, who's, you know, it's a great movie, but it's completely like nonsensical. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, and a lot of its narrative, it's super vague the entire time. But then, and it has an 88 on Rotten, okay? An 88. And then Halloween Ends already just barely came out and already has a 40%.
I like I said, I loved it. I love Terrifier 2. I was laughing the whole time. I was grossed out the whole time. But when I saw that, I thought it was a little bit out of pocket for him to post something like that. But
it's funny.
It's cool, I guess.
I didn't see his post yet, but I looked that up because I was like, all right, everybody's like, you know, foaming at the mouth for Terrifier. I'm going to go see what the score is, and it had an impressive 88. And then I went to see Halloween Ends, and it was so low already. And we're going to get into our thoughts about the movie without spoiling anything for the new Halloweens right now. New Halloween when we get into Rex, but yeah, that just kind of. I was like, okay, guys, now we're just... But in my last piece of news, moving on, Blumhouse and James Wan dropped their trailer for Megan, who looks to be the new killer doll on the block. You can watch the trailer now and get ready for the movie dropping January 13th, 2023.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it looks good, dude. What a stacked couple months we have in the beginning of the year with that and Evil Dead, and I think the new Scream's supposed to come out around that time too, right?
Yes, like March, I believe. Early March.
And James Wan's he's goated already. So it looks good.
It does. Very, very eerie. Definitely. Just it's kind of playing with like the same premise of the Child's Play, the re-envisionment or reboot, however you want to say it, where it's, you know, just artificial intelligence gone wrong, pretty much. I will say this: I feel like that trailer is a little long. Like you guys gotta stop giving us too much. You know, stop giving all the good shit away. But yeah, I'm excited nonetheless.
And now it's time for the weekly recommendations.
So first off, Disney Plus's Werewolf by Night. Watched it last week, starring Gal Garcia Bernal, directed by the fucking GOAT Michael Giacchino, who also did the music. It's good, dude. I think I told you off air, but I think that it's probably my favorite thing Marvel has done, and if not like my favorite thing that they've done, just because it's so different. And that's how I felt around Doctor Strange too, in the Multiverse of Madness. I like the way they're going with things. I know the fans don't really care for things like that. I think everyone loves this, but they complain when everything kind of stays the same, and then when things get turned upside down on them, they don't like it. I'm glad everyone likes this because I love it. If you haven't seen it right now, go and watch it. It's a like Disney Marvel Presents special like hour presentation of Werewolf by Night, and you get to introduced to him and a couple other rad ass characters. But yeah, dude, I fucking loved it. And who would have thought that Giacchino could do something like that? Give us something that fucking rad.
Oh yeah, pulled it off spectacularly.
For my second rec, we just talked about it, but Terrifier 2, like I said, go and see it. It's awesome. Like Wes said, it kind of is all over the place. Maybe that's something that you can kind of is a negative about it, but they go for it. And it works. Fucking, it's awesome. Art the Clown is fucking rad. Just like Wes said, he kind of solidifies himself as a horror icon. I know there's going to be dozens of people dressed up as him the next couple of weeks. Don't come to my house though, because you'll get drop kicked.
I've seen even some like chicks like a sexy Art the Clown already. Like, all right, that's like kind of like a paradox. I don't know.
And the final girl in it, I mean, Lauren Rivera, she's awesome in it, I think. But yeah, go check it out. Like we said in the beginning, it's again playing in theaters this weekend, 700 theaters. So there's probably a theater playing it near you. But yeah, go and support Damien Leone's Terrifier 2. And last but not least, I know Wes is going to have this too. Halloween Ends.
Yes.
We both went to go see it yesterday. We had to go see it before all these fools fucking heating on it and spoiling shit. But yeah, dude, I loved it. I know it's getting a lot of shit, and like you said, the Rotten Tomato score is terrible. I think that's just people trolling, just because it wasn't what they were expecting, and that's why it's so great, and that's why it works so well. And if you don't get the direction David Gordon Green and all those people involved in the movie were going with it, you're just it totally went over your head. Obviously, we're not going to spoil anything, but yeah, I think I remember texting you right after, like, yeah, dude, it's a completely different take on Michael Myers and his path of destruction that has led up to this, and it fucking works. And they swung for the fences and they fucking hit a grand slam. There's a couple things I kind of disliked, but for the most part, it fucking rocked, and it was a great way to end the trilogy. And kind of excited for what David Gordon Green now does with this new Exorcist trilogy, which, by the way, I don't know if you know this, starts production in a couple weeks.
Nice. I know a lot of people have been seeing a lot of comments and posts that they're really mad after seeing Ends that he's in control of something like that.
But you know, did you see how much Universal are putting into the trilogy?
No.
Universal's putting in $400 million into that trilogy.
That's like a great golden baby, you know, like, of course, if you're going to do it, like, fucking do it to your best ability, you know, or otherwise what's the point?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude, I can't wait for that. And they're bringing back Ellen Bernstein too, which is fucking awesome. And I guess they've been working with her. He's been working with her very closely, so
that's rad, because you predicted that. You were like, yeah, hopefully they're bringing her back, and then they actually are. That's awesome.
Nothing on Linda Blair yet, so hopefully we get something. But yeah, fucking Halloween. Going back to Halloween, and And I'll tell you what, my mom just recently saw last year for the first time in her life. She saw 78 for the very first time. She went to Peacock, she went to HBO Max, watched fucking Halloween, and then she went to Peacock and watched Kills. Kills. And then my mom doesn't like going to the movie theaters at all. She went to the theaters today to see it.
Oh, wow.
And she fucking loved it. If it can get Monica to go to the theaters, it should get you to go to the theaters. But yeah, that's what I got for my Rex.
Yeah, for my Rex just this week, I wanted to also give a shout out to Halloween Ends. It's getting a lot of hate. Of course, like you said, I understand why people feel indifferent to it. It's a very divisive film, but I feel like everybody involved told us low key, like, this is going to be a far cry from what you're used to. Nothing like Kills, nothing like 2018. And even from the opening, they use the same opening credits as Season of the Witch, and that's like a little hint as to what you're in for, because it's like nothing we've ever seen. And I don't know if that went over a lot of people's heads, but it's like, I didn't really have a problem with the movie and the structure. A lot of people shitting on the script, saying it's the worst in the entire franchise, saying it's worse than Resurrection, comparing it to that of Jason X, which is preposterous. Are you serious? Come on. There's a few things like some characters who I won't say in case you're listening to this and you haven't seen it yet are severely underused, especially because it's the end of everything. But they did keep their promise, and there's no cop outs when it comes to the end. It's a real conclusion, and I love that. And shout out to, this is very much Jamie Lee Curtis's movie, and she fucking rules in this. All right, it's like she's amazing. And is firing on all cylinders. If you're gonna go see it for her. Obviously, I think she had a lot to do with how the story narrative went, and maybe that's why a lot of people have an issue with this. Go ahead.
I think that's why, it irritates me so much. Is that, look, I can tell you if I think I'm with you with movies. It's like I can be pretty generous, but I'll straight up tell you if I don't like it, or if it's not the greatest, or if it's just okay. But for you to come out and say everything that everyone is saying, when you damn well know Jamie Lee Curtis had a hand in all three movies, story as well. And she put her stamp on it, or else she wouldn't have come back. And it's just mind-boggling how you can sit there and write a fucking review or go on social media and talk shit about something like that, where, like you said, this is her movie from the get-go, and it's probably some of her best work. And just for people to come out and just shit on it like they are is fucking terrible. Sorry. No, don't apologize. I like we talked about off air. It just seems like everybody, like you were telling me, everybody made fun of Kills because they thought it was weird, and why is he so strong, and why is nothing, why does nothing happen to him, and then when they almost, it's like they learn from their mistakes and they go for this ultra kind of realistic third act ending, and then everyone's like, oh, this is fucking stupid. Where's Mikey slashing, killing everybody? And it's like, come on, guys. And that's what they got in the second one. I mean, Kills that's probably the most angry he's ever been. Some of those brutal kills that he's done in the franchise. So they gave us that in this trilogy. Yeah. So it's very confusing.
We loved it. Like you said in your TikTok, is it a perfect film? No, but did they put their heart into it? I 100% believe that. And yes, I do want to watch it again because it didn't suck the way that everybody is trying to say. So, if you're listening to this and you haven't seen it yet and you're wondering whether it's worth it or not, I would say still go check it out in the theaters. If you're not comfortable with the theaters, it's streaming out on Peacock. But I will say this to all the haters. You all went and paid and gave them the money, all right? When you could have watched it on Peacock. So who are the real suckers, all right? That's all I'm going to say.
Hey, $20 million on that Friday. That had to come from somewhere.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And now for the movie focus of the week.
So, tonight, we're talking about Red State. It's rated R. It's from 2011. It's a horror thriller. It runs at a super fast 1 hour and 28 minutes, and it's got a 61 on Rotten. Written and directed by Kevin Smith, starring Michael Parks, John Goodman, Kyle Gallner, Michael Ingriano, Nicholas Braun, Melissa Leo, Deb Aquila, Kevin Pollak, Betty Amberland, and Carrie Beesh. The film follows 3 teenage boys who decide to meet up with an older woman for a sexual encounter after chatting with her for a few days. As the 3 travel to the next town over, the encounter turns into a living nightmare as they find themselves in the hands of a deranged cult. Red State was first announced in 2006, with Smith's first draft being completed in 2007. Working through a number of challenges, the film would not be released until September 23rd, of 2011. With grabbing a spot on Sundance in January of the same year, however, the film showing at Sundance made for some controversy after Kevin Smith stated that he would be self-releasing the film and taking it on tour. This left a lot of potential investors very upset and could have very well burned some bridges for the filmmaker at that point. Overall, Red State is a well-crafted thriller that doesn't play by the rules and succeeds by being wholly unpredictable in almost every way. Kevin Smith, as a public speaker, comedian, and filmmaker, has always been associated with raunchy toilet humor, and although this film is nasty, it's under a completely different genre, and has a very serious and different tone, much like Tusk. Whether you enjoyed it or not, it helped prove Kevin isn't just a one-dimensional creator and is capable of pulling off anything he sets his mind to. Obviously loosely based on the now infamous pastor Fred Phelps and Waco, Michael Parks makes this film with a haunting and evil performance. A welcome surprise with John Goodman as an ATF agent battling his own moral compass is also gripping to watch. If you haven't yet caught this small but mighty picture, we can't recommend it enough. Thank you.
Hell yeah.
All right, man. I know you chose to do this over Tusk. Do you care to share why?
I think Tusk gets a lot of hype, which it deservingly should. But I think out of the two, I think this is my favorite, just because of the commentary it's doing on things that were happening then and we're living through it right now. And like you said, Michael Parks is just absolutely fucking insane in it. That dialogue, that sermon he gives, I don't know how long it is, like 10, 15 minutes, is fucking crazy, insane, and nothing happens like on screen where like jump scares or gore or blood or anything, but what he's talking about is insanely fucking scary, because there are people really like that. But yeah, I just chose it just because I think it's it's one of his better films, and it doesn't. I don't think a lot of people talk about it enough. And that's why I wanted to show some love to our man Kevin Smith.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, what's his other action picture? He did a buddy cop movie, that Cop Out with Bruce Willis.
Oh, Cop Out. Yeah.
And what's his name? Tracy Morgan?
Yeah.
And he had a bad, I don't know if you know the story behind that, but I guess Bruce Willis was really mean to him during that production and didn't really take him seriously. So this is him really stepping out of his box, his View Askew universe. And in my opinion, I felt like he did an incredible job, because this doesn't feel like, if you didn't have his name all over it, you would never be like, yeah, this is a Kevin Smith film ever, you know?
Yeah.
It was like he managed to take himself out of his element and create something that's extremely important and memorable. The performances feel real, you know, very, very raw. It's mostly shot on handheld, so you feel like you're there, and it makes it that much more scary. You know, it's not a traditional horror film, kind of in the way of the way that Green Room isn't necessarily like a traditional horror film. It's a worst case scenario, you know, which to me, you put yourself in these surreal situations, and like nobody in their right mind would want to endure something the way that these kids or even like the fucking law enforcement go through with Red State. So yes, it's very much, I feel like, rooted in real life horrors, and it's because humans can be monsters too, you know, and I feel like that's what this movie is trying to say. And then it's also touching on kind of government cover-ups and the weirdness of the U.S., you know, that they know more than they lead on, and they just, I don't know, they fail at protecting human life.
When did you get to see this on tour, or did you rented it first time?
Yeah, no, I rented it for the first time. I don't know why I didn't hear about. Maybe I wasn't as entrenched in social media, because I remember for a while when I was like 18, 19, I didn't have a Facebook. I didn't have anything, you know? So I feel like if it wasn't playing at our Ken Cinema down here in San Diego, and I just, I wouldn't hear about it because I wasn't online as far as that. So I didn't even know that this was taken out on tour at that time, or that was even a thing, you know, because road shows are a very rare occurrence. I feel like now, if you're not, you know, Tarantino did it with the Hateful Eight, and if you're not Kevin Smith, you don't really see people doing that. Adam Green did it with his newest Hatchet installment, but it's not something that's a regular occurrence, you know. But yeah, to answer your question, I saw this at home, and it blew me away, because when I figured out that it was Kevin Smith, I was just like, wow, this is intense. Like the fact that he wrote, you're like, all right, he directed this, but there's no way he wrote it, and he wrote it as well, which is very, very impressive. It makes you wonder, like, so did Kevin wrote like all of Michael Parks' stuff, or was he ad-libbing, you know? Because it's Parks, his dialogue is so believable, and he has this twang, the southern twang, that makes him so much more eerie, you know? Even in Tusk, it's so unsettling. And I feel
it's funny because
go ahead.
You say that, and as I was watching it tonight, I thought the exact same thing. I was like, dude, there's no fucking way he wrote all this dialogue. Like he had to have Like Michael Parks had to have fucking been, riffing and ad-libbing a little bit of that, because it just, he probably did, but it'd be fucking insane. And it just feels so real too.
Yes. Even when you start off with the kids, and that's when it starts off like Sex Drive or Road Trip, where you're like, okay, yeah, this is a Kevin Smith movie, and it's like basically these three kids, they're still, I believe, in high school, and they're very much into like the online porn thing, and they want to meet up and like hook up with a chick, and then they're at first they're like, oh, okay, like I don't know, all these girls are far away, and then they find a woman that's pretty close, like right outside of their town, and so they agree to all do it, but the key thing here is to say is it's that they're gonna, how do you say, they're gonna do this act together, so it'll be like three dudes with one chick, and that comes into play later on in the film. But they all agree, and they one of them tells their parents, like, hey, I'm going to take the car. I'm just going to go out. We're going to watch a movie. I'm going to watch the movie with my friends or whatever. And they're like, okay, have a good time. And so when they're on their way to this woman's house, or trailer, I should say, they sideswipe a car that's like kind of sitting off with their lights off on the side of the road. And it ends up being, I believe, the sheriff of that town, correct?
Yeah.
Who is he's married, supposedly a heterosexual man, but he's having I guess he secretly likes men, and that's why he doesn't stop the boys when they sideswipe the car. They the kids come out of the car to investigate the accident, and they're super pissed, of course, because they're minors and they're scared of getting in trouble, and the sheriff doesn't come out because of, being caught up. So he hides. And the kids leave pretty much do a hit and run and go to continue on to their adventure. And that's when the sheriff basically goes back to his what do you say, like his base or whatever, and he tells his deputy, like, hey, these kids, like, I was involved in a fender bender, you got to go find their car. And the deputy, he's not too stoked on this because he's supposed to be off already, and he was like, all right, I'll go find the car for you. And then we cut back to the kids. They arrive at this like kind of rundown trailer, and the woman that they're going to hook up with comes outside, and she's like a lot older than you would imagine. I feel like if I was in that scenario, I've been like, yeah, man, like this seems like some kind of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre setup. Maybe we should just like go home or something. But they, being young and naive, they continue on with it. She pretty much forces them to drink what looks like Modelo. No, not Modelo. Dos Equis or maybe Stella or something like that. And she tells them like, oh, I gotta have a few beers to work up to the sex. And then she says like, yeah, like a guy has to have at least 3 beers in him before I'll let him in me, or something really fucking weird. A lot of weird stuff going on. And then, the trailer's like super, super tiny where they could barely even stand up. So she makes them drink and get undressed and go into the bedroom. And by this time, I guess whatever she's drugged the beers with works, and they start to lose consciousness. And that's when the shift changes in the film, where we know where where we're headed. And a bunch of guys come in and kind of saran wrap their hands and legs together. And they wake up in these cages in a church, pretty much. And that's when we meet what's Michael Parks' name in the film?
Aben?
Yes. Aben Cooper. So this it becomes clear that these kids have been set up by this church of extremists that pretty much they don't like homosexuals, I guess, like in the worst way, and that's why they've been committing homicides slowly all over the town, and they hint at this, they foreshadow it before that all these people are missing, and then it becomes clear that they've been abducting these people and then killing them because of their religious beliefs. And that's when the film really kind of goes off the rails, but in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you wonder, like, things escalate so quickly in this that you're like, how is this going to be a full-length feature, you know?
Shout out to Ralph Garman, who doesn't say a word in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, up to that point of the movie, like, you kind of, like, you get that they're fucking shitheads and, you know, just the worst type of people, but you kind of don't know where things are going until they wake up in those cages, and Michael Parks has this dialogue, this speech, this sermon that's just off the rails with excerpts of Bible verses and just crazy ass shit. And then it starts going, you know, it's going to get bad. And I think he tells all the kids to, like, get out of the room, right? To, like, go to school or something like that.
Yeah.
School.
Yeah.
And that's when it fucking goes off the rails.
So they had somebody already abducted that wasn't with was Travis and Billy Ray and them, and they end up executing him first, and it's really, really fucked up.
Yeah, no, it's terrifying the way they kill him and the way they have him. It's like you have to go, like, a little deeper into it, and it's just like those types of people love to, that is like the radical super, like, complete other side of the spectrum, right? But, you know, I think it's just like a great it just, like, shows you in a grander huge bigger way. But, like, that's how, you know, religious people are. You know, they think they're, you know, kind of perfect and their shit doesn't stink and that they're, you know, perfect in God's eyes, but they're probably the biggest most of them are probably the biggest sinners of them all. And then exactly like the movie where they're preaching this, you know, they can't stand, you know, how society is and how people are. And, you know, I think Michael Parks even says something along the lines of, like, you can't turn a TV on with, like, a guy without a guy, like, dangling his junk on TV or something like that.
Yeah.
But they're the real fucking monsters that are killing people. And they kind of, doesn't he, like, kind of, isn't their way of saying it's okay is because it's, like, God's work?
Yeah, he says, he even references, he was like, yeah, in the Bible it says, thou shalt not kill. But then he creates a loophole for them to be justified, in so many words, where they're able to do it because they're carrying out the Lord's work. And and that's why he's bringing in, he brings in the media, and he says that, like, you know, there's sexualization all over, like everywhere you look, in books, magazines, TV shows, movies, like you can't get away from it. So it's almost like they've took matters into their own hands, and nobody is doing anything about it. And then, you know, and that's when that kind of subplot comes in with the sideswipe, where the deputy ends up finding the boys' car on the church property. Think that he thinks it's a little weird. Cooper comes out because they already know that they have company. And they stop everything so there's no sounds. And then Cooper kind of shoots the shit with this deputy and trying to get him to go away. And it almost works. And then, but the two of the kids that are saran wrapped underneath the flooring of the church end up getting loose, and they're running around like the cellar of the church, it looks like. And they end up, I think it might be Billy Ray finds like an AK or something. Mm-hmm. In the big ass artillery room. That why do these people have that kind of firepower? And so there's a shootout between one of the church people and the kid. Billy Ray dies. But anyway, the deputy obviously hears the firepower, knows that something's wrong, and calls in for backup to the sheriff, and then is killed. They ruthlessly murder law enforcement to cover their tracks. And then after that happens, you're thinking, okay, well, at least he was able to call in the backup, you know, and things are going to be handled. But Cooper knows about what the sheriff has been up to in his car, and the cheating on his wife, and threatens to basically ruin his life if he doesn't stay quiet. So he's thinking about offing himself, and then he doesn't. He calls was the ATF. He calls John Goodman's character, correct? Or that's what's inferred.
Yeah, he looks at that poster of all the missing people on the wall, right?
Mm-hmm. That's when we're introduced to John Goodman's character, who is pretty cool. I feel like he's at least trying to be a good person, despite his higher ups telling him not to.
Yeah, they're telling him like go in guns blazing, because they're all fucking nut jobs, right?
Yeah,
and he's kind of like,
yeah,
no.
He's all, I've been informed that there are women and children in there, and they're just like, yeah, well, your orders are to act as if this is a domestic terrorist cell, and you have, you know, lawful authority to use lethal force, which is basically code for you need to execute everybody in that building, no matter who it is. And that becomes like the big conundrum in this film, is that you have all of these, you have the hostages who are trying to get out, and then the cops who don't know that there's already an active hostage situation, and they end up the sheriff ends up killing one of the innocent the kids that got free, because he had a firearm in his hand while running out to protect himself, and he gets ruthlessly just taken out without any context. And that's what I meant in my write-up, is that this film is just, there's so many twists and turns where it's you can't predict where it's going if you haven't seen it, you know, unless you're rewatching it. Watching it for the first time, you're not expecting for them to do what they do to your main players, because all of the three kids, they all die.
Yeah, they all die, and it kind of like turns to John Goodman's character as being like the lead.
Mm-hmm. Which is crazy because by that time, it's like it switches its scope, but like almost when the movie is over. Which is cool. I love kind of anti-structure stuff like that because we, like I've said more and more on the show, we consume stuff so much that we're able to bank where something is going. So it's refreshing when people can bend the rules and do something that's more unorthodox, and it's kind of a treat for us, for people who watch movies on the regular, rather than you following this kind of cookie cutter format of a screenplay, you know. And I feel like a lot of people bagged on him for that. I know I read somebody who said that this movie is proof that Kevin Smith still doesn't know how to make a good film, which is pretty mean and weird. I know he's used to that kind of those kind of comments, but it's kind of out of pocket.
Yeah.
But yeah. But did you in your research, did you read the what the real ending was supposed to be?
Yeah, wasn't it supposed to be the rapture, right?
Yeah, like it was actually going to be like the Four Horsemen like roll out, and it's actually for real.
That would have been on some like fucking cabin in the woods shit.
Yeah.
Because I think like Sandy had never seen it, so we were watching it tonight, and like as soon as you hear those trumpets, she's like, "What is happening?"
Yeah, because they just Cooper and his gang or whatever, his church people just give up and they just go outside because they're like, yeah, this is it. It's coming. So then they feel like the fighting is pointless from that moment on, and then of course we find out later that there was some kids that had moved like a few miles down the way, that they had like they were doing some compost stuff. And I guess Cooper and his church were harassing these kids because of the smell of the manure or something like that. So then they ended up getting this kind of big siren, old school machine, trucking it down there and hooking it up to an iPad. And they thought it would be fun to play like that what's it called? Those like huge kind of like a bell or a siren. What's the correct?
Yeah, it's a sound that you would, if you would have heard it, you'd be like, fuck, shit, something's happening. Either fucking the rapture's happening or Godzilla's gonna pop out of the ocean soon.
Like, think Silent Hill. That
yes.
Yeah, like that. That's huge siren. That's almost like, oh, we have like a nuke warning or something type of shit, right? So anyway, they hook up their iPod to that, and they end up telling the cops later that they just thought it would be funny to fuck with Cooper and his goons, because they wouldn't stop harassing them. So, and then supposedly these kids had no idea that there was a gun battle happening, a siege happening at Cooper's place at the time. So it was just like a happy accident as far as all of that coming together. But I did like how Goodman says how he ended up headbutting Cooper.
Yeah.
For being too close to him.
How do you think this movie would have done now?
Do you mean like if he takes it on tour, or if he just
Just
Bro-
like if it got like if he took it on a tour or if it got like a theatrical release, and then just how do you think people would, especially now, like in the time we're living through now, how do you think people would have reacted to it?
I think that he almost, it's like scary because he's, not that guns haven't always been a threat or bad thing, but I feel like right now we're in the height of it being widely known. So I feel like I think people would, it'd have been like a wake up call if it was released now. But in the same perspective, with when he released it, I feel like he was foreshadowing what was to come because of
Yes.
like the senseless deaths that happen every day here in America because of not only firearms but military grade firearms that nobody really needs in their possession, especially somewhere like a church, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I think it would have, I would like to think it would do well.
Could you say even if it? I mean, this was 2011, right? Was it a little ahead of its time?
Absolutely.
I think that's why I loved it. I love it so much, and I feel like it's one of his better movies just in general. Is that, and then the fact like you talked about and how we've talked about before, and just how we were just talking about Halloween. It's so different, and it throws you for a loop, and you don't think what's going to happen happens, and it happens. And it's crazy, and all the research too that. What's that church that they boycotted like a lot of the tour?
Oh yes.
Westboro, right?
Yes.
And supposedly like they even got into a date, and they were protesting inside one of his stops, and he like offered to bring him up on stage to talk about it.
Yeah, I think they got in the line for the Q&A and they were questioning him. So he actually brought them up on stage and continued like an interview because that's how Kevin is, you know. He's notorious for doing stuff like that where, you know, of course, when Dogma came out, religious people lost their shit because of what he's talking about in the movie. And then, I don't know if you know this, but he went out to a few of those protests and pretended to be one of them protesting his own movie.
I did not know that.
Just like meta as hell, dude. I swear.
It's fucking awesome.
It's just so funny that this one of the nicest dudes on the planet, or so he seems, gets so much shit for his work, and it's like very you know, not this one particularly, but most of his stuff is very tame, you know, and not, I don't know, I feel like he's besides the profanity, it's not, he's undeserving of all the shit that he goes through, you know.
And it just shows how much of a fucking better a human being than I am, because if I were to get all the hate that he does on a daily constant basis, I'd be fucking pissed all the time. But the dude fucking takes it, and I've never gotten that. Just, he doesn't bother anybody with his work. Like, he makes movies that he wants to make, and he makes movies that fans want, and just fucking let the dude just do what he likes to do and do what he loves to do. I think even I was reading, or he tweeted out or something on Instagram about that new theater that he's opening up. Like, someone like sent in like a bomb threat or something, or like a threat, like a gun violence threat or something. It's like, for what? Like, what? He's just opening up a theater.
Yeah. And he said that he thought it was funny, and his daughter Harley Quinn got mad at him and was like, no, you need to take this seriously. And he's like, yeah, but what if they're just like, it's like they're just fucking with me, you know, like it's just it's just a joke or whatever. But you see, even with that, something like that happens, he's just like, oh, it's whatever, you know? Like, he's so nonchalant about everything. Yes.
Would you put this on up there, the higher tiers of his movies?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because all of his stuff is very dialogue driven, but I loved how this is a mixture of that, and it's like more visceral. You know, it feels, and I tend to say this a lot, but it feels dangerous, and I like that. Like the structure is ever changing. So yeah, I would say this is definitely amongst his best efforts for sure.
Right. So when the Prince Charles Cinema in London.
This is my power center in London. I used to have Q&As here. A couple of years back, I did like a series of Q&As here. Wonderful theater.
And it's famous for its double bills. Famous.
Yes.
Could you come up with the ultimate Kevin Smith, double bill right now?
Well, geez. Ultimate Kevin Smith double bill, yes. Clerks and Red State, hands down. Mm-hmm. I think they're parts of a whole, ironically, even though one is not a comedy and one intends to be. But I think if you look at Clerks back in 1994, it's a movie that says, oh, this guy shows some promise. He might do something cool one day. And I think Red State is the film that answers that promise. It's the like, oh yeah, we thought he would, and it took him a while, but he got there, and here it is. So to me, that would be the double bill, Clerks and Red State, because they were both produced under the same set of circumstances, independent, outside the mainstream, no expectations or anything like that. So I think those two would be nicely put together.
Now, the name Red State.
Yes.
Now, as soon as I heard it, I went, that's a good name. I mean, for a movie.
It's nice, like, ooh.
Yeah, Red State.
Intrigue, yeah.
But there's a natural kind of political hint to that. How did you come upon the name, and what was your decision-making process behind that?
It's embarrassing, but I'll give it to you. Like, blood is red. Red State. A lot of people are like, what are the political intonations? I'm like, it was just a clever title. And also, to be fair, I'm not very political, but to take that title out off the table from some other jackass who makes a political movie, I thought that was kind of cool too, to some degree. There are a lot of guns in the movie, and generally we kind of associate that more with red states than blue states back home. But I swear to you, flat out, Blood State would have been a stupid title. Red State had a bit more zing and pizzazz to it.
There's been a debate, certainly around a lot of journalists and kind of generally in the media, about what movie do you classify Red State as. I know genreing is a bit different.
I used to say, I still maintain, because I can't think of anything better, I say horror. I go, it's a horror movie. People go, no, it's not. Like, it begins like a horror movie and then it changes. I say, I agree, but show me anything that's less horrifying than in that movie. Like, everything that happens in the movie is horrifying. Even like there's a moment where one of the protagonists has a chance to kill everybody and end the movie early. And he doesn't, and even that's horrifying. Everything about it is just a series of bad decisions. So if all the material is horrifying, to me, that kind of makes it a horror movie. But I definitely can see that, like, most people are like, it's not just a horror movie. It's a genre mashup. Like, for me, I wanted to make a movie that was like a couple movies at one time. I spent a lot of time making View Askewniverse movies, and as I'm heading out the door, like I'm kind of finished making films. I could feel it. I wanted to make as many of movies as I could in one movie right before I left, and that's kind of what Red State is. It jumps genres, a genre mashup. I mean, honestly, it's like, it's me trying to do the movies that I love. Because as much as I love Kevin Smith movies, and don't get me wrong, I do. I'm the world's biggest Kevin Smith fan.
You do them well.
Spirit and size. Thank you very much. As much as I dig those, like, those aren't the movies I dream about making, because I can make that. Like, you know what I'm saying? I can make a Kevin Smith movie in my sleep. Some critics say that I have. But literally I could. The movies that I dream about making are the movies I can't make, like Quentin Tarantino movies and movies about the Coen brothers. Like, those are the movies I watch and dream about going, oh, wouldn't it be amazing to do that flick? Could you imagine having that much talent or whatnot? So for me, doing Red State is me putting aside a Kevin Smith film and trying to do a Quentin Tarantino movie by way of the Coen brothers, just a little soupçon of Kevin Smith on top, just so we know, just so that when people go like, you didn't do this, I could be like, no, I did. I could tell you everything that happens. That's the nice compliment on that movie, when people go like, there's no way you directed that. I'm like, thank you.
That is very kind.
Yeah, it's a little backwards.
I think it's safe to say that you are huge on Twitter. Huge.
Very.
And this is possibly quite a big question to ask, but could you give us your ultimate follow Friday? Who would you love everyone that you know to also follow?
God, who do I think is really... who's really funny is this dude named Jensen Karp, who he does a podcast at smodcast.com called Get Up On This. But the dude is really consistently funny. He runs a gallery, an art gallery in Los Angeles called Gallery 1988, which is a sweet gallery. They do artwork. Like one of their last shows was Garbage Pail Kids. Like artists doing all these, like 100 underground artists in LA doing Garbage Pail Kids. They've done I Am 8-Bit, which is just like Nintendo paintings and stuff. And we do a series there called Crazy for Cult. This guy Jensen, though, he's been in music. Now he runs this gallery. Really witty guy. And his tweets are really funny, like cutting, biting, wonderful satirical commentary, shorter than my stuff. I get by on like hey, I made Clerks, so like you throw out a joke, people are inclined to like it if they like Clerks. This dude has to earn every laugh like with each tweet. Now his tweets never fail to make me laugh or chuckle, so much so that I'm like, I gotta up my game. When you read a tweet that makes you want to like be funnier, that's a good tweet.
Finally, possibly the most important question I'm going to ask you today.
Yeah.
What is your favourite sandwich and why?
Hands down, peanut butter and jelly. Easiest to make, goes right back to youth. It's a time machine. You take a bite into that, you're like 5 again. You're younger, 4. Takes you like that moment in Ratatouille when he eats that food. What was it? The Ratatouille, the title dish. And he's taken right back to his childhood. Same thing. They eat peanut butter and jelly. It reminds you of youth. The only taste that takes you right back to youth just like is pussy. Pussy and peanut butter and jelly take you right back to adolescence.
And I can quote you on that.
Hands down. Put that on a peanut butter jar. You know what I'm saying? I'll be somebody's peanut butter spokesman. This and pussy forever. They're like, with a name like Smucker's, it's got to be good.
Did you are you aware that Tarantino really loves this movie?
Well, it opened at the only theater it played at was the New Bev, right?
Well, technically, so he opened it for a week, a special week at the New Bev, and that was so it could have consideration for the award ceremonies, technically. But then it opened up. That was like in June. But then it opened up for, I think there was a special, it might have been Fathom Events, but a one-day event that it opened up in that following September for like chains. But I'm pretty sure the reason why Tarantino allowed that to happen is because he loved the movie. Because if you look up the original one sheet, he's on the one sheet and quoted like, "I love this fucking movie so much."
So see, if fucking Tarantino loves it, you should love it and give it some love.
But he is always coming out of the woodwork with like crazy ass picks. Like I was really excited for Crawl when it came out, and everybody looked at me weird, made fun of me. Even Chris Pollock was like, "That looks like fucking hot garbage." And I was like, okay. And I went to see it and I really loved it. And I was like, yo, this movie is way better than it has any right to be. And then, then shortly after, Tarantino comes out saying how much fun he had with Crawl and that it was his favorite movie of that year, that entire year. And then after that, when I confronted Chris later, Pollock, after that, I was like, "Yeah, your boy fucking says Crawl is pretty good, right?" And he was all, "Yeah, it's not just him. I heard that it's a pretty solid movie. Like, I'll give it a chance." He went back. If you had to rate this one, what would you rate it, man?
I'd go like a solid, out of 10.
Yeah, out of 10.
I would go solid like 8.5, probably 8.5.
I agree with that. Yeah. That's a good rating.
Michael Parks, dude, he's fucking standout. Just R.I.P. another fucking goat, another legend.
That's right, R.I.P. All right, man. So next week, my girlfriend actually asked to be on the show with us.
Oh my god! You know what, Wes? No, I'm just kidding.
So yeah, Emma Duenas will be joining us next week, and I asked her to pick a film, horror film, of course. She said she wanted to be a part of our spooky season. So we're going to be doing Starry Eyes.
Fuck yeah, dude! Fucking killer soundtrack. Fuck yes.
That's one of her favorite horror films, and very, very fitting. So very excited to bring her on, and then you will be present as well. So I think it'll be a killer show.
Yeah, dude, that's a killer pick. Another unappreciated horror flick.
Yeah, which is insane because that movie is, again, so good.
Yeah.
What else, man? Any closing thoughts? Go watch Halloween Ends.
Yeah, go watch Halloween Ends. Everyone who has something bad to say about it, I get it, but I don't. It just I keep on like hitting that over the head. Is just, I get it. It's not what you wanted, and maybe.
Go
ahead. It's just like not. It might not be what you wanted, and going into it, maybe it wasn't what I wanted necessarily out of the final movie in that trilogy, but after those first like 10-15 minutes of the opening scene, it made me realize, well, shit, this is fucking awesome, and it's a change of pace and a breath of fresh air into a trilogy that they've already pumped in a shit ton of fresh air. But yeah, go and fucking see it. Go and support it. And like Wes said, if anything, if you do go and see it for Jamie Lee Curtis.
100%. Also, I want to say I had more fun with Halloween Ends than I think I did Kills. As far as... Because I did a play-by-play, and watching Kills and then going into Halloween Ends, like having Kills so fresh in my mind, right? A lot of the dialogue really bothered me in Kills, and I didn't feel like that for any of Ends. So to me, that tells me that they realized in so many ways their mistakes from Kills and changed that, because the dialogue is not, there's no evil dies tonight type of bullshit in there, all right? But yeah, so I don't know. I liked it more than Kills, if that means anything to anybody out there.
If we're talking about those types of people, Wes, it doesn't mean anything. It's like fucking yelling at a brick wall.
I also saw somebody when they're like, when you're realizing that Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 really isn't that bad after all.
Dude.
You backpedaling motherfuckers.
Oh, that movie is like a fucking acid trip for an hour and a half with Michael Myers like sprinkled into it.
Yeah, homeless Michael Myers.
Shout out David Gordon Green. We love you. We love you here.
All right, dude. So next week, Starry Eyes with Emma Duenas. Very exciting. Yeah. Check out Red State if you haven't. If you can get your hands on it somehow.
Yeah.
All right. If you're stumbling upon this podcast, we operate out of San Diego, California, and we are available on most podcast platforms, including Luminary, Spotify, Stitcher, Spreaker, Apple Podcast, you name it, we're on there. So check us out. Give us a subscribe. Hopefully a 5-star rating with a little nice review if you have a couple extra minutes. That all counts, and it helps us keep going. Thank you to everybody who constantly listens. Until next week, this is Wesley Swanson, Ryan Jimenez signing off, saying good fight and good night.
Hey, what was it? The trumpet blast.
Pardon?
The trumpet blast. What was it really?
Oh, that. Well, some new neighbors, these eco kids from the university with a compost collective. They got an acre off the ass end of the 5 Point property, other side of the hill. Aben's been giving them a bunch of guff because of the smell of the compost.
Was it bad?
get so you can taste it. But Aben's been harassing these kids, sending some of his bigger boys over to bitch at first, maybe break a window or two. And I guess they went old school. Lots of sugar and gas tanks, burning bags of dog shit.
College kids.
No, that was Cooper and his church. The eco kids never so much as called the cops. They got creative instead. They thought it'd be funny to take a page out of Revelations and get Cooper and his family's hopes up with the trumpets. So they got this big-ass rusty old siren from a firehouse that just got a new one. The fire chief said they could have the damn thing as long as they carted it off as big as a Mini Cooper. So they trucked this thing down to their compost collective. They put it in a barn. They hook it up to an iPod, of all things. And they played these single-note trumpet blasts that they pulled off the internet.
And they had no idea that you were even there.
It's just dumb luck.